Maybe burnout isn't a badge of honor. Maybe always being busy isn't something to be proud of. And maybe, just maybe, we've all been quietly normalizing exhaustion. Because somewhere along the lines, being tired meant that you were doing well. And if you weren't tired, basically it meant that you weren't doing enough. Or at least it felt like it. But I wanted to ask something a little bit uncomfortable. What if the way that you've been working is slowly costing you your life? Let me start with something honest. I used to think that being overwhelmed was just part of ambition. If I wasn't stressed, juggling things and constantly on, then I wasn't trying hard enough. And to be honest, I don't think I was alone in that thinking. We are living in a culture and a society whereby overworking is normal. Exhaustion is expected and slowing down feels like failure. The weird thing is, even when you achieve more, it doesn't seem to feel any better. And that's where burnout sneaks in, but quietly. There was a point where I realized something quite uncomfortable. I wasn't working hard. I was just addicted to feeling like I was working hard because it made me feel productive. It made me feel like I was getting somewhere, even though I was completely drained. And I think that's where hustle culture becomes dangerous. It doesn't reward outputs, it rewards overexertion. Hustle culture has a quiet message behind it. There's an underlying understanding of if you're not exhausted, then you're not working hard enough. And that if you're not exhausted, you are falling behind. So we start to believe that rest is lazy, slowing down is risky, and burnout is just part of success. Here's one thing that no one really says out loud. Constant overworking does not mean that you are ambitious, because ambition should feel like direction, not depletion. But here's where it gets interesting. But what if burnout isn't a sign that you're doing too little? But what if it's a sign that you've been doing too much but of the wrong type of effort? Let me explain. We've started treating productivity like an identity, not something we do, but something we are. So in that frame of mind, rest feels very, very uncomfortable. And essentially doing nothing feels so wrong. Relaxing basically has guilt attached to it. And then with that, slowly your value is attributed to your output. You end up being in a mindset of how much did I achieve today? How much did I do today? Versus a mindset of how do I actually feel today? Or how did today go? That shift is subtle, but very, very powerful. Because once you lose connection to yourself, you can be productive, but feel very empty. Don't get me wrong, I do not think the answer is to stop being ambitious, because fundamentally, I think ambition is healthy, but only when balanced with well-being, and only when you're ensuring that you're not constantly on the cusp of burnout. Ambition must be balanced with well-being, because ambition without rest turns into pressure, and pressure turns into burnout. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. It can sometimes look like procrastination, numbness, lack of motivation, constantly feeling behind, or even losing interest in the things that you enjoy. The challenge is when experiencing some of these things, we don't fully recognize it as being on the cusp of burnout, and therefore do not see it as a warning. In those instances, many people, including me in the past, have pushed through, and that is not the right approach. I don't think the solution is do less or stop trying. I think we have to be more honest with ourselves than that. I think one thing that helps keep things measured is learning to ask, am I building a life or am I just surviving on a productivity system? Because there's a huge difference. One of them is intentional and the other is reactive. If you're always operating at full capacity, you don't actually have the time to think, feel, or readjust. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop measuring everything by productivity and just measure it by how you are feeling. This isn't a total anti-productivity video because it has its time and its place and it has its season in your life. However, not every single thing needs to be measured in the lens of productivity and outputs. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to stop measuring everything through the lens of productivity and simply start checking in with yourself. So yeah, maybe burnout isn't a badge of honor. Maybe it's simply just a signal that something in the way that you are living or working needs to change. Not because you are failing, but simply because you are moving in a direction that is not sustainable. You do not need to earn rest. You just need to be human enough to take it. Those are my 2 pence about burnout, and a reminder that burnout is not a badge of honor. So please, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourself. Let me know in the comments if this video was helpful. Let me know your thoughts about how you've overcome burnout and perhaps some of the things that you notice in yourself when you are on the cusp. I hope this video serves as a reminder that you don't need to work yourself into the ground to do well and to have ambition, and that burnout really, really, really is no badge of honor. But anyway, I hope this video has been helpful and has served as a great reminder to you all. All that's left to say is make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.